Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We chant Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 66 to 70.
नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न च भावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम् इन्द्रियाणां हि चरतां यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः आपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी.
We are now studying this portion, Sthita Prajna, in chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where he, after having described the Sthita Prajna, the inner state, the impact of Sthita Prajna upon the world and the world's impact upon Sthita Prajna, he then talks about the importance of developing the intellect, bringing the senses and the mind under the control of the intellect. If the senses and mind are not under the control of intellect, what will happen, he discusses. If you bring them under the control of the intellect, then the self, which is your original nature, reveals itself. That's what he's been saying so far. So, Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashe Videy Atma Prasadam Adhigacchati. Prasade Sarva Dukkanam Hani Rasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashuhu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. Nasti Buddhira Yuktasya Nacha Yuktasya Bhavana Nacha Bhavayata Shantihi Ashantasya Kutas Sukam. This much we have seen so far. Till verse number 66. So, what he has been saying is, you must control your likes and dislikes. There's nothing wrong in having likes and dislikes. They should be under your control. You should not come under the control of your likes and dislikes. Let not your actions be driven by your likes and dislikes. Let it be driven by your buddhi. Let it be driven by your obligation. Let it be driven towards the higher purpose goal. You are not supposed to run away from the world, because where will you run away? Wherever you run, you will be in the world only. Even if you go to Himalayas, that is also in the world. So therefore what he says is, you go about moving in the world, but with sense control, lending purpose to your contact. Anything that will take you away from the goal, you don't contact. Anything that will help you to take you towards the goal, you contact. No problem. So therefore he said, don't act propelled by likes and dislikes, act propelled by your intellect. Having acted, end perception with perception. Don't indulge mentally in that perception and increase vasanas. If you do this, then you will get peace. You get prasadam, peace of mind. And he says, prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopa jayate. All your sorrows will be gone. Prasanna chetaso yashuhu buddhi paryavatishtate. Your buddhi becomes sharp. You develop clarity. You rise above delusion. You see right from the wrong clearly, and then you will act properly. So he says, therefore, there is neither knowledge nor meditation for the unsteady. Na asti buddhihi ayuktasya. Ayukta, yukta. We discussed this last week. Yukta means one who is centered in the self. Yukta means one who is centered in the self. Ayukta means one who is not centered in the self. Yukta means one who is sense controlled, self controlled, mind controlled. Ayukta means one who is not having that control. So for that person, there is no knowledge, he says. First of all, if your senses are not controlled to that extent, you can't even receive the information. And after receiving, you got to process the information, understand the information. Even that becomes difficult. And by chance, if you understand, the next thing to live as per the knowledge is impossible, he says. For the ayukta, one who doesn't have self-control, one who doesn't have discipline in life, one who is not leading a life of discipline, there is no possibility of this knowledge getting established. So, na asti buddhihi ayuktasya. Then he says, for ayukta, there is no bhava. Bhava, in Swamiji's translation, is translated as meditation, focus, single-pointedness. So, a person who has knowledge means he is able to control his senses and put his efforts single-pointedly in the direction, especially in spiritual field, towards the self, or for that matter in any field, single-pointedly towards the chosen goal. So he says that person will not be able to do that. There is no meditation, there is no bhav, there is no right attitude. He will not be able to accept things as prasad. He will not be contented. And a person who is not having that bhav, he says, will not have peace. When the mind goes in all directions, you lose your peace. You will be in pieces. You got to bring your mind in one direction. So, for the person who's lost focus, there is no peace. And for the person who is not peaceful, where can be happiness? How can there be any happiness? How can he be experiencing sukha? Because the person who is contacting out of rajas, out of craving, how much ever he get, he will still want more and more and more and be attached to what he received. So this craving and attachment will disturb his happiness. He will lose happiness. That person falls in a vicious trap. You know, when you are disturbed, you can't think properly. When you can't think, you cannot act. When you cannot act, you will not achieve success. When you are not successful, again you will be disturbed. And the disturbance will again take you to the same vicious spiral. You get lost in a vicious trap or vicious spiral. Therefore, whether it is mundane activity or spiritual activity, one thing that is very, very important is your senses and your mind should be under your control. This is what he's emphasizing. He's emphasizing self-control, sense control, mind control, which means bringing the senses and the mind under the control of the intellect. It does not mean sense denial. Please contact the world, but as directed by your buddhi. That's all. So, in verse number 60, he said, the turbulent senses take away the mind. And when the mind is taken away, what should the mind take away along with it? The buddhi. So that he says in 67. If the senses are allowed to take away the mind, then the mind will take away the intellect. This he mentions in the 67th shloka. In between the 6 shlokas, he was talking about the dangers of not developing the intellect, the importance of developing the intellect and bringing the senses and the mind under the control of the intellect, whether you want to achieve something in the world or you want to achieve something spiritual. That's why we said, if you ask somebody what is the definition for success, everybody will say, whatever I want to achieve, when I achieve that, I can say I'm successful. It could be something material, it could be something else for another person. But whatever achievement it may be, to the extent your senses and mind are under your control, to that extent only you can achieve that. Therefore, from that angle, you can say success is nothing but bringing your senses and mind under your intellect's control. You can put it that way. A person who is able to do that, he can achieve success in any field, whichever field that person applies. You understand? So you may have tremendous skill, intelligence, talent, all that. But if you're not able to control your mind, you'll be finished. Many people with tremendous talent and skill, they've lost it. Crucial moment they get agitated. Supposing a line umpire says it's out and it's not out. In those days there was no referrals. Nowadays you have referrals and all that. And you feel like it's touched the line and he's saying out or something like that. You're arguing. You get disturbed. And you were about to win. From that point you can start losing also. So therefore in any field you must control your mind. Swamiji says, Ivan Lendl was a great player in tennis. The name Ivan Lendl. He had won many tournaments except Wimbledon. I think twice he came to finals. Once he lost to Pat Cash. Another time he lost to somebody else, I forget now. So, a champion who has won all tournaments many times has never won Wimbledon. And Swamiji says many times he sometimes skips certain other tournaments preparing for Wimbledon because he was so obsessed with it. So the fact that he was so obsessed with it, he was not able to bring his mind under control when it comes to Wimbledon, and he lost it, he says. He never won Wimbledon. So, in other words, the real thing in life is controlling your senses and the mind. That importance was talked about. Only to the extent you keep yourself peaceful, the self can reveal itself. Now let's get on to shloka number 67.
Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano vidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi.
For the mind which follows the roving senses carries away his intellect as the wind carries away a boat on water. Now, if you see in verse number 60, what did he say? If you go back to shloka number 60, in shloka number 60, Sri Krishna was telling that, where is that verse? O Kaunteya, the turbulent senses of even a wise man, while striving, indeed forcibly carry away his mind. So he's saying, O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, O Kunti Putra, the turbulent senses, meaning the senses which are not under the control of the intellect, of even a wise man, meaning learned man, class member who's studying Vedanta, let's say. Not just new entrant who's been studying for many years. While striving, putting in effort willingly in the spiritual field, indeed forcibly carry away his mind. If you do not practice sense discipline, it will carry away your mind. Before you realize it's gone somewhere. And naturally, what will happen once the mind is gone somewhere? The ability to discriminate thinking will go away. The awareness is gone for a toss, isn't it? So therefore, naturally what you should have said is, the mind which is distracted will take away your awareness, will take away your discriminating ability, will take away your buddhi immediately in the next shloka. But he, in between 6 shlokas, as I mentioned, he doesn't talk about it. Now he's talking about in 67. So in between all these shlokas from 61 to 66, if you see, he's talking about the importance of developing the intellect, bringing the senses and the mind under the control of the intellect. So what does he say here now? For the mind, which follows the roving senses, carries away his buddhi, intellect. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidiyate. Tadasya harati pragyam vayur navami vambasi. He gives a beautiful example to explain this concept. He says, as the wind, Vayu, carries away a boat on water. Navam means boat. Ambasi means water. So he says, just like a boat on water is carried away by the wind, the individual's awareness, intellect is completely carried away. Boat is equated to the individual. See, in this, to understand, this example of boat is very often given in the scriptures. We are all like that boat in the ocean of this world. Ocean represents the world. Boat represents you and me, the individual. And in the individual, in the boat, there is a captain steering the boat. And that captain is the intellect. The captain steers the boat using the help of the mariner's compass, which always points towards the north. Similarly, the mariner's compass is what here? The mariner's compass is the scriptures, which always points towards the self. Like the mariner's compass always points towards the north, the scriptures always direct us towards the self. You understand? So therefore he says, the individual should come under the guidance of the intellect, which should take the guidance from the scriptures. Then the intellect will be controlling and directing the senses and mind with full awareness that person can be functioning in the world. Otherwise, the person only will be mechanically existing here. But the buddhi, the discriminating ability is gone. The awareness is gone. That's why our life is sigma regrets. Very often, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I was a little more intelligent. I wish I was aware at that time. Very often, supposing we are given another chance to live this life. We should ask ourselves, will I live my life the same way? I would live it in a better way, isn't it? At least I think so. Because lots of regrets. What is happening with these gone? There's this poem called Pineapple and the Bee by William Cowper. It is given in the book by Swamiji called Select English Poems. He's not written it. Swamiji has not written it. It's written by William Cowper. So many poems Swamiji like that has taken and is given there, and he interprets it philosophically. In the poem Pineapple and the Bee, the poet William Cowper says, the sight our foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples in frames. If our intellect is not guiding our senses, and our senses perceive something, as we register that sight, or as we register that sound, along with that, what happens? Our mind goes, the desire increases, attachment happens, desire increases. Now, when that desire takes over, because senses go, along with it, the mind goes. And when the desire starts, what should be the job of the intellect? Intellect should sit down and think whether I should work to satisfy this desire? Is that the right thing? Or I should control my desire and then start doing the right thing in the context? That's how independently the intellect should think. But what will happen is, when the desire takes over, instead of independently discriminating to see whether it's the right thing to go with the desire or something else I'm supposed to do, instead of that, I will be coming under the power of my mind and working like a slave to fulfill my desires. You understand? See, we may have so many desires. Now, on a Sunday morning, I might want to do many things, but I have an obligation, right? So, unless and until there is a higher obligation, it's a different thing. But if there is no such thing like a higher obligation, it's my desire. And desire is saying, today I would like to just laze. Or my desire is saying, go for a movie, something like that. Now, my intellect should independently think, what is this? Simply you are bringing something like this. You can go for a movie some other time, you have an obligation. You better go and conduct the class. That's how independently intellect should think. But when the senses take away the mind, most often what happens in many cases is the mind takes the intellect away. Instead of being independent and thinking originally and doing the right thing in the context, it becomes a slave to the mind and starts doing everything the mind wants it to do. Therefore, he says, roving senses carries away. Mind which follows the roving senses will carry away the intellect also. Like the boat is carried away when it is on the water by wind. Wind represents the passions of the mind. We have too many passions, isn't it? It's not allowing us to go in one direction. So many things are there. Every year there is IPL tournaments, right? And I think they plan it in such a way that the IPL tournament happens after the 12th exam. I think so. I don't know. I assume so. Now, otherwise, many children may not be able to focus. Supposing there is IPL match going on and there is also exams going on. How many children will be able to focus? I don't know. It's very difficult because mind is going in that direction. And let's say, many places where we live, we can hear, even if the television is on in some other room or in somebody else's house, we can hear what's happening. Sound is coming. So what will happen? Your mind will go there. When the mind goes, buddhi goes. So there are too many passions within you. There has to be external discipline. There has to be internal discipline. Both are important. That is why in all the scriptures, we talk about Bahiranga sadhana, Antaranga sadhana. Bahiranga sadhana means external disciplines. Antaranga sadhana means internal disciplines. It's not easy, isn't it? The boat is going on the water. And if the wind is too powerful, it will go in another direction. You, as a captain, you should be able to control and direct the boat in the proper direction. So you must have that strength. Therefore, you must focus and strengthen your buddhi. Otherwise, you will be gone. That's what he's saying. Your eyes are seeing something and the mind goes in that direction. And when the mind goes in the direction, awareness goes in that direction. Many a times, as you're working, supposing you keep your phone next to you, and in your phone, if the notifications are not switched off, as a message comes or a WhatsApp message comes, some notification sound comes. Now you get distracted. You see, and you say, hey, somebody very close to you has sent one message that is popping up as the sound comes. You've seen it now. Once you've seen it, the mind is saying, he sends a message now. Just see what it is, maybe. Maybe it is something important. Right? And then, as you start getting involved in that, you may be doing something very important. You've lost attention over that. And your awareness has gone in this direction. And you completely forgot about this. Many times it happens. Suddenly, after half an hour or 45 minutes, you say, oh my God, what happened? I'm supposed to be doing this, but I got distracted. Why? Because there was no sense control. As a result, mind got lost. When the mind got lost, intellect went in that direction. You got completely distracted. That's why he says, for the mind which follows the roving senses carries away his intellect as the wind carries away a boat on water. A lot of passion in every one of us. Too many desires are there. When we have desires inside, going about in the world, it's dangerous. That's why he says in the poem, the sight our foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples and fruits. See, in the story of Ramayana, when Surpanaka approached Lord Rama, he said, listen, I'm married, I've come with my wife, you forget about it. And then she sees Lakshmana, and she goes to Lakshmana. Lakshmana cuts her nose. And now she wants to take revenge upon these guys, these people, Lord Rama and Lakshmana. So she wants to go and instigate her brother, Ravana, so that he will come and fight against them. Now, you know what she does? When she goes and talks to Ravana, Lankeshwara, she talks to him about the beauty of Mother Sita. Listening to the beauty of Mother Sita, Ravana was an extremely learned person. Understand? He got completely distracted and he got attracted towards that. Just she didn't say anything about, I went to Lord Ram and then he sent me to Lakshmana and he cut my nose. She didn't say anything. She just says, how beautiful. I saw one lady. She was so beautiful. I immediately thought of you. You understand? And once his mind took over his buddhi, then his destruction started. So philosophically we say, Ravana destroyed himself through his actions simply because he did not bring his mind under the control of his intellect. Lord Ram is not a serial killer going about looking for people to be killing on every weekends and vacations. Isn't it? So therefore, these are things teaching us. It's teaching us. Message comes. You have been sanctioned. Free loan. X amount of money. All you need to do is click one link. You get tempted. You click and that's it. All your money from your bank is gone. All they did is send one message saying you are getting 1 crore free. What all they offer, I don't know. Something like that. The attraction is so much. You see the message, you just saw, and with that your mind went, 1 crore? You don't think, who will give you one? Let me see if somebody will give you 1 rupee free. You understand? Who is going to give you 1 crore free? For what? If somebody is giving you something free means it has to be a trap. Please understand this. It has to be a trap. Like you have the rat trap, no? The rat trap, what do? They keep something that attracts the rat. Dal vada they keep. So the smell is so attractive for the rat. It goes and gets caught. The sight our foolish heart inflames. We long for pineapples and friends. So that's what he says. As the wind carries away boat on water. We are all living in this world. We are the individuals. We have the intellect, and we should constantly use the scriptures, take guidance from the scriptures, the mariner's compass, and then drive this boat called the individual personality. Otherwise, we will destroy ourselves. This is what he's teaching here. And if we do that, if we bring the senses and mind under the control of the intellect, what will happen is we'll be burning the vasanas. We'll be destroying the vasanas, reducing the vasanas, dissolving the vasanas. And as we reduce the vasanas, the self from within reveals itself. So you'll be growing spiritually as well as materially. That's all he's saying. Now, in 68th shloka, he comes to a conclusion. Then again from 69 to 72, last 4 shlokas, he will give the description, definition of a Sthita Prajna from a different angle. So, 54, Arjuna asked a question. 55, 56, 57, 58. Shri Krishna answers the question. And then, which is what? About Sthita Prajna. Profile of a perfect human being. Answer was given till 58. Then 59 till the 68, which we'll do now, he is talking about the importance of developing the intellect and bringing the senses and the mind under the control of the intellect. As a sadhana to evolve materially as well as spiritually, especially spiritually. So now in 68th shloka, he is concluding that. Let's chant 68.
तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Tasmat, therefore, after giving all the logics and reason as to how you should function in this world to evolve materially and spiritually, he is now concluding. He says, Tasmat, therefore, O Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, you are a great warrior man. You are a Mahabaho. You have conquered many, many enemies outside. You have conquered many, many enemies outside. Now you should conquer this enemy within you. What is that? The senses and the mind. This world is constantly attracting you, pulling you from outside. And the senses are constantly pushing you outside from within. There is an attraction pulling from outside, and there is a pushing from inside. In this push and pull, all of us are caught. So he says, therefore, O Mahabaho, his wisdom is established. Tasya prajna pratishtha, whose senses are completely restrained from the sense objects. Indriyani indriyartebhyah. Indriyani indriyartebhyah. Means what? The senses are completely restrained from the sense objects. Now, when he says the person's wisdom is completely established, when the senses are completely restrained from the sense objects, what does it mean? That means our eyes should not be seeing the world. Our ears should not be hearing the sounds in the world. Is that what he's saying? Because his senses should be completely restrained. Means my eyes should be always closed. I should have put some cotton inside my ears. Is that what he's saying? What is he saying when he says the senses are completely restrained from the sense objects? When are they completely restrained? See, restrained, you have to understand what is this word restrained means. When are they completely restrained? Supposing you are very hungry and you see on the dining table all kinds of dishes are kept, and especially many of them you love, laddus and all that is there. So you are terribly hungry. So you go and eat. To your heart's content you eat, but still there's a lot more. You've eaten to your heart's content. Still there are a lot more laddus, lot more items on the table. Are you seeing them or not now? The stomach is full. You say, Baba, I can't eat anymore. I'm full. Your senses are seeing, isn't it? Your senses are seeing the objects. Now, will you be thinking about those objects? Will you be attracted to those laddus? Why you are not attracted to those laddus? Because you are full. Correct or not? Though you are seeing, you are not running after them. You are completely restrained. In the sense, your mind is not going in that direction. It is restrained. Why? Because you are full. What kind of fullness should happen then in your life with this example? For you not get attracted by the world. Rather, you should be restrained all the time. Why is a jnani always restrained with reference to the senses? The jnani has understood the real value of this world. That is the fullness. That is the fullness. When you see it, then you stop it. Till then you will continue. This is what he wants to say. Simply he said, senses are completely restrained from sense objects. What is this? Restraint means knowledge. When you clearly understand iron and gold is good for buying iron and gold. Abhi, why they are not without restraint running? Why they are without restraint running towards? Because you believe that there is joy in the world outside. So if you remember what we studied so far, with discipline. For example, 11 to 12 on Sundays, you withdraw from the world. Keep your mobile phone switched off. You open your laptop. You are coming to this class and attending online. What are we doing here? We are discussing about the world. Discussing about the individuality. We are analyzing the reality behind it. We are questioning, is this real? What is real? When we are doing all this analysis with no distractions, we'll be able to do it better. That's the idea. So we say keep certain lifestyle disciplines, keep your environment also convenient, sit and analyze with the scripture, with the Guru. And understand, what are you understanding about the world and about the senses and the mind? See, the nature of the senses will be like this, nature of the mind will be like this, the nature of the world is this. Now it appears as if there is joy in the world and therefore the senses are running. But if you sit and question, see if there is joy coming from it or not. That famous example that Swamiji always gives. Without questioning, when you see the world, it appears as if there is light coming from the moon. But when you question it, you do understand that there is no light coming from the moon. What is that light that is coming from the moon? The light that is coming from the moon is nothing but sun's light that is getting reflected. Isn't it? So, you know the source of happiness. You don't fall into the trap. So this is what he's saying. The person whose wisdom is established, how do you know? If he runs away, he says, "Arey yaar, these senses are all too dangerous. I cannot be there. I cannot be in an environment where there is money, where there is people, where there is attractions." No. Initially, yes. Initially, till you strengthen yourself, you need a certain disciplined environment and all that. Then, when you are established, your senses are completely restrained from the sense objects. Meaning what? It is now understood that it is basically looking like a tiger, but it is actually a cow. Isn't it? There are people, who appear like strong outside, but if you really think and understand them, you will know that they're actually weak people. So then you don't get scared by them. Initially, you're scared because in appearance is like this. So similarly, this world is seemingly attractive and the senses are running after them without restraint. But with the discipline, when you have inquired and you have got the knowledge, wisdom established, thereafter your senses will not entertain any thought, your mind will not entertain any thought of the sense objects, except for the time when you have to go and contact it for practical purposes. That's about it. You're hungry, you need to contact. You contact and come back. Because if your stomach is, you're hungry, you will have to give it food. Simply giving rupee note is not enough. With a rupee note, you have to buy the food and then eat. You will eat. But the problem, without restraint, why it's running? Go to the root. Then you will understand when he says the senses are completely restrained. Meaning, it has understood that there is no joy coming from the world. Then why will it run after it? It will always be restrained. 24/7, 365 days, it will be restrained. It has no aversion to contact it. So, you are also contacting but being restrained. Are you with me? So, understand it like this. Initially, you are physically also restraining or kind of regulating your contacts. Let's put it that way. You're analyzing which are extremely detrimental. You keep yourself away from that. And there are other things which are not detrimental, but you still have attraction for them. So what do? You regulatedly contact it, and then simultaneously you're gaining the knowledge. Right? Now, as the knowledge starts getting established in you, you have started understanding the frivolous, trivial nature of this so-called attractive world. Then, as the knowledge goes in, even if you are contacting, you are restrained. Then such a person, even though that person may be in the world, still not affected. That is what he's saying. Therefore, O Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, running away is not a solution. Regulation is a start, beginning, and finally, restraint is a solution, which is nothing but contacts underlined by knowledge, which is brought about by proper inquiry, vichara. That is what the scriptures do. That's what every master is trying to tell us. After vichara, go contact. Then you will be restrained. That's all he says. Whose senses are completely restrained. Completely restrained means 24/7, 365 days. Has no thought of the sense objects whatsoever other than for the practical purposes when you have to contact it. So there is no taboo. You can contact whatever you want, how much ever you want. Why? because now it won't tempt you, won't attract you. So, this is what he's trying to say. It's the understanding when it gets established, then you will be restrained. Even things may be around you, you will still not be attracted. But when you want to go, you will go. So, what is the sign of wisdom? What is the sign of buddhi, wisdom? When you contact, you are not attracted by the contacts because you know the essential value of the object, what it is worth, number one. Number two, when you want your mind to go, it goes. When you tell your mind, don't go, when you tell your senses, don't go, it doesn't go. This is the sign of wisdom. It's in some places you see some of the dogs which are trained so well. There is something kept outside and the dog is told, stay. And maybe for an hour also, the dog will stay there, just looking at the object. The moment the trainer says, catch, it will move and go and catch it, grab it. Like that, when you are able to dictate terms to your senses and mind, then you are as the prajna. How beautifully he concludes here. He says, then only you are really Mahabaho. You may be Mahabaho with reference to the world, but you are real Mahabaho only when your senses are under your control, only when your mind is under your control. Otherwise, you are not a Mahabaho. Such a intelligent person with all kinds of degrees going about clicking the button because somebody sent a message saying, by clicking it, you are going to get 1 crore free. So, how can you call yourself intelligent? That's all he says. O Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna. That's why Mahavir, Vardhaman is called as Mahavir. Vardhamanji is called as Mahavir because, not because he went and conquered many people in many battles. No. He conquered his senses and mind. Dusuron ko jai se pehle, khud ko jai kare. So, winning means really knowing is what we need to understand. When you know, you win. When you don't know, then you run. That's the difference. And that difference he beautifully brings about in the next shloka. 69th shloka is again a very important shloka. The difference of a person who has wisdom vis-a-vis a fellow who has no wisdom, between these two people. Person who has wisdom, person who has no wisdom. He says there is total difference between them. Complete difference. That he's going to talk about in the next shloka. Verse 69.
या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः.
If you have been sleeping in the class, this verse will wake you up. It is that kind of a verse. It seems, what do you call, waking up shloka. That which is night to all beings. Ya Nisha. Nisha means dark, night. Ya Nisha. That which is night. Sarva Bhutana. To all beings. That which is night to all beings. Tasyam Jagarti Samyam. Therein the self-controlled one keeps awake. Therein the wise person keeps awake. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutana. That in which beings are awake. Sa nisha pashyato mune. That in which beings are awake is night to the sage who sees. So, he's saying, he's comparing a person with wisdom and a person without wisdom. He says that which is night for the unwise is day for the wise. That which is day for the unwise is night for the wise. Totally ulta, topsy-turvy, completely different. Unwise fellow says it's night. The wise fellow seeing that as day. Unwise fellow says it is day. That the wise sees it as night. So the world and experience and understanding of a wise person is completely different from the unwise. For example, which we discussed, unwise thinks there is joy coming from the object. The wise knows there is zero joy in the object. Please understand this. For the unwise, the joy is in the achievement of the result. For the wise, the joy is in the doing of the right action. This is a very important shloka. We'll do this again in detail next week because we hardly have some time left today. But it's an extremely important shloka. It will make us think. It will wake us up. That's why I said, even if you've been sleeping now, so what? Day is night, night is day. What is this? I don't understand. There is a lot of depth in this shloka. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam. The unwise is more in quantity. Tasyam jagarti samyami. Samyami means well controlled, sense controlled person. Jagrati, he's awake. He's awakened to the truth. So ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami. There the wise one keeps awake. You all don't care. Somebody is giving things free to us. We keep on taking. Wise fellow will say, hey, listen, I have not paid, I will not take. I don't deserve it. I will not partake on it. So that's what he's saying. Ya nisha. Simply outside, if you see, that is dark for him, this is day for him, it's all like that. But deep thinking is bringing here. Where, like they say, no, fools tread where wise fear to tread. Fools rush where angels fear to tread. Yeah, no problem. Indiscriminately indulging in the world. We are awakened in that. He is asleep. We will not indiscriminately indulge. So all completely ulta, opposite. So ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyam. Jagarti means one who is awake. See, when he is saying, these are shlokas which we have to pause and think. See the choice of words. Sarva bhutanam and then jagarti. Jagarti means what? One who is awake. Right? One who is alert and awake. So, one person he says is awake, other person he says all beings, they are in darkness. Darkness means they are not alert, they are not aware. In what? In the worldly contexts. Whereas a wise man is alert and awake and aware in the contact with the world. We'll see this in detail next week. This is a very, very interesting and deep shloka. Lots to discuss in this shloka. So I'll take it up fresh next week. Let's conclude the class. Oh. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।